Yes, I was homeless for years, but this was the push that I needed in order for me to find myself. Hey, loves, my name is Danny, and I'm here to tell you guys how homelessness changed me, changed my life. I feel like a lot of people, when they think of being homeless, they think of misery, they think of struggle, they think of suffering. But no, I think that in the beginning, yes, because I didn't understand what was going on or why this was happening to me. But once I removed the why and started just realizing that this was a part of the experience, this was a part of for me to build character, for me to grow, practice discernment, and all that, like, it became easier. I do kind of want to tell you guys why it was that I became homeless. So if you guys have been following my channel or have been watching my recent story times, and you guys know that I walked away from a very toxic family dynamic where my family was pretty much like creating this false narrative of me because they were just not okay with my happiness. And that's just my experience. And that is just my experience. I don't say that just to say it. I don't say that because I'm trying to make somebody else look bad. Like, that is just my experience. And if my experience happens to make someone else look bad, then it's up to them to reflect on their character and reflect on the decisions and the choices that they made when it came to me, when it came to gossiping about me, putting me in chaos. Like, they need to evaluate that. But yes, I removed myself from a very toxic family dynamic because the tension was just rising and I was really tired of it. It was affecting my mental health. It was creating a lot of anxiety. It was creating a lot of distraction. And I just felt like I didn't need that anymore. So I ended up moving in with my partner at that time. And once I had fully, completely cut off my family, I feel like there started to become a lot of tension between my partner and I, which caused us to break up. And of course, it was a painful experience, but because the both of us are, you know, on the same kind of frequency, we have the same mindset, we want the same things for ourselves and for each other, we were able to talk about it and we were able to be cordial about it. And I was still living with her mom at the time. And anyways, once that happened, someone from the family, my family, took it upon themselves to message my ex's mom and pretty much spread a smear campaign. And if you guys don't know what a smear campaign is, pretty much what a smear campaign is when the narcissist or the abuser, whatever, toxic person, whatever it is, no longer has control over you. So what they'll do is they'll start to reach out to people that you associate with and ruin your reputation with lies, with gossip, with false narratives, just to kind of ruin your reputation, so that when you try to come out and you try to speak your truth and expose these people for the things that they've done, that nobody will believe you. And it worked. I'm not even gonna lie. They did their thing when it came to that. It definitely worked because it created a lot of tension between me and my partner's mom. And it was kind of sad because my partner's mom, she is such a great mother figure to me. I feel like a lot of the things that I learned was really from my partner and her mom, learning how to just be a woman, put myself together, just little things, learning how to be more organized, clean, learning how to vocalize things. It really did come from them. And so it kind of sucked when the tension started to arise between us. And honestly, yeah, it was kind of messed up. And I will say, I don't think that she should have necessarily listened to them, but I do understand it. From her point of view, I could understand that. Why is your family coming to me and saying these things about you? You know what I mean? And so, anyways, because there was a lot of tension, me and her mom, we got into a big argument, and she ended up kicking me out. She was like, you can't live here anymore. You can't stay here. She's just not comfortable, you know? And it was very chaotic. I'm not going to lie. We really did have a big fight, but it is what it is, you know? So because I got kicked out, I feel like a lot of people thought oh, I was just going to run back to my mom's house. Absolutely not. That actually frustrated me so much. I was like, bro, I do not want to go back to that house. I do not want to go back there, because what the hell? What in the right, who in the right headspace is going to go ahead and going to do that? You know what I mean? So I was very disappointed, and it led to a lot of depression, because I really did start feeling like I was worthless. I started feeling like no one's ever going to believe me, whatever, this and that. And I became very sad. And I just remember sitting in this, like, I was in my ex's car because she had a car that didn't work. And, she was like, oh, you could live in my car, because her and I were still really good friends. And she was still, like, supporting me regardless of, like, our relationship status. She was still willing to, like, support me because she actually understood the things that I went through. Anyways, I remember just sitting in the car and just really, like, praying to God and asking God, because I didn't understand. And I'm like, bro, like, I don't understand. Like, I'm doing the meditation, I'm eating healthier, I'm developing better habits. Like, why is this happening to me? And I think that was my biggest downfall, is always questioning why, always questioning God and why this was happening, and always kind of looking at it as if I was a victim. And I had to realize that I was not a victim in this situation. I had to realize that there is no such thing as good or bad. It's just an experience. I'm simply just a spiritual being experiencing life in a human vessel. And it's up to me. I can't control other people. I can't control anything outside of me, but I have control over myself and the choices that I make. So I can choose to sit around and continue to be depressed and continue to, allow these people outside of me to destroy my reputation, or I could decide to grow from this, right? And so I feel like in that moment, when I was sitting in the car and I was praying about it, I started to feel just a spirit. I started to feel like just energy around me. Like there was presence, a spirit present around me. And like I just remember feeling that, and I remember looking at the moon, and I remember just starting to say affirmations, and I started uplifting myself. And even though like I was still really sad, I was still really depressed, I was still very, very disappointed in the fact that this had happened to me. But I knew that me sitting around, it wasn't going to help. Like, I knew that me just sitting there wasn't going to help. On top of that, not only did I become homeless, but literally within that same, like, month, I ended up losing my job. And so that was very stressful, because now, not only do I not have a home, not only do I not have a safe space, but now I don't even have a way to make money. And that was very, very stressful to me. But again, I started just, telling myself, like, okay, this is not the end of the world, And I remember, like, right after that, I ended up watching this video that popped up on my YouTube channel. And I never really watched videos like this, but I was like, all right, let me just watch this. And basically in the video, it was saying the video, and I feel like it was speaking to me, was basically talking about how a lot of the times when something bigger and something greater is made for you, you are going to face a lot of temptation. You are going to face a lot of heartbreak. You are going to face a lot of negative things in your life. And it's not because life is destroying you. God is never going to put you in a position where you completely get destroyed. But God will put you in a position and break you, because you need to rebuild yourself, right? And that's when I had learned that there is no such thing as good and bad. We are just simply just living in an experience, right? And that is up to me to create a better life for myself. And that really like inspired me to like just, not let this get to me. And of course it was really hard, because it's like, again, why? I ended up figuring it out, and I started staying in Airbnbs. I started staying in hotels, because this was like, I became homeless in September. So it started getting like colder, like from September, October, November, like it started to get colder. And so obviously, I had to stay warm. And in that time, I spent a lot of time by myself, and I would cry for like hours. I would fucking cry. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional. I think it's because I'm tapping into that. I would cry for hours by myself, and I would really just try to understand more than I should have. And again, I feel like the why was really like the big thing that was getting in my way. Is like, stop trying to figure out why, like this is just what's happening. And now it's a matter of what can you do to make it better for yourself. And I'm not going to lie, I feel like I handled it very wrong in the beginning, because I was trying to expose other people, and I was trying to speak my truth, and I was trying to like, oh, well, this didn't happen and this didn't happen. And I felt like I was just responding off of hurt, off of anger. And so for a very long time, yeah, I feel like I was trying to expose these people. And now, like, I tell my story not because I want to expose, but because, like, I want to just say my experience regardless. because I realized that when I was like exposing, when I was putting people on the bus, when I was saying certain things, it didn't lead me anywhere, because at the end of the day, people were still going to believe what they wanted to believe. Because after I had like been living in the hotels for a little bit, I ended up reaching out to one of my cousins, because I found out that she was like living alone because her mom had moved out, so she had like extra rooms. So anyways, I ended up finding out that my cousin was living alone, and I was like, okay, cool, like, you know what, like, let me just ask her for help. Like, it's not gonna hurt me to ask for help. Like, the worst that could happen is she's gonna say no. And I did expect her to say no, but also, like, she also doesn't really mess with the family like that. Like, she's always been super distant for her own personal reasons, so she was willing to help me. So I ended up going in, I ended up like moving in with her, and I still didn't have a job or anything, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna obviously get a job. I'm gonna start working. I'm gonna start doing like everything that I was already doing. I'm gonna continue to do it in this space. And so I continued to start cooking for myself, eating healthy, going to work. And it was hard because like I was still very depressed, and like I would go to work, and I used to be like a teacher, like a preschool teacher. And I remember like having to like walk out because I would just like start feeling like I just want to cry. And I would just start crying and crying. And everybody would always ask me like, oh, what's happening? What's wrong? Like, you could talk to me. But I didn't really want to talk to anybody, because I felt like nobody was going to believe me. I felt like nobody was going to care. I felt like my family already did like the worst of the worst, and they already did their best to like reach out to other people. They already did their best to like, speak about amongst each other and create gossip. And I was just like, honestly, like, I just know like me talking about it, like, it's not gonna get me anywhere. Like, people are gonna believe what they want. But I would talk to my cousin, the one that I lived with. I would talk to her a lot about like my experiences and like my childhood, because I felt like she also could relate. Because like I said, she wasn't talking to the family. Like, I don't know where she's at now in life, but she wasn't talking to the family for her own personal reasons. So I would kind of just share my reasonings. And obviously, like, I'm gonna start living with her. I'm homeless. Like, she's gonna probably question like, why are you homeless? Like, what's going on? So I ended up telling her about like just the dynamic that I had with my mom and the rumors and everything that was happening. And come to find out, like, my cousin actually knew about the rumors. And mind you, me and this cousin, we would never talk. Me and this cousin, we never really saw each other, because like I said, she already had distanced herself. Like, she wasn't coming to family events. So for her to like know the gossip and know that, like, I was just like, damn, like, this means that like everybody is literally talking about it. That means that like everybody is literally like holding on to this narrative. And I'm not gonna lie, like, that did hurt my feelings, but I knew that I had to be stronger. I knew that I couldn't let this situation, change my character and define me. And yes, I was angry. And yes, I was reactive. And yes, I would email my mom and I would cuss her out and I would try to expose everything that I found out about her. And honestly, I know that I made matters worse for myself in doing that, because I'm showing them like, oh, I know this, I know that. And that's going to give them more of a reason to keep on spreading lies. That's going to give them more of a reason to keep on reaching out to the people, whoever it is that they want to reach out to. And I remember like when I told my mom and I exposed them about like, oh, I know that one of you guys messaged my ex's mom and this and that. She was like, oh, that she's lying, that she's making it up. Literally, bro, the messages are not going to lie. You know what I mean? And it's like, there's literally like real proof in front of me, and you're still sitting here and gaslighting me. And I feel like that in itself made me realize like, okay, I definitely never want to talk to my family again. Like, I need to like just keep doing what I'm doing. And like I said, it was a very like hard thing, because it's not easy being homeless. You know what I mean? It's not easy. And yeah, I had my cousin, but that's not my house at the end of the day. And so I wasn't that comfortable. Not because she was a bad host, not because she did anything to me, but because it wasn't my space. And so anyways, I'm like living there for a little bit, and my cousin was like telling me like, oh, you have to leave, like whatever, like trying to kick me out and everything. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I didn't purposely take advantage of the situation, but I feel like I was scared to move forward. And I feel like I got like very comfortable just staying there. And so I kind of overstayed my welcome, and I will admit to that. You know what I mean? I did. And I didn't know if my cousin actually felt any way. Like, we would have conversations. I would like be vulnerable to her. So from my knowledge, I don't think that it was anything super bad, but she did express like, oh, like she does want her own space, and I did respect that. But also maybe I didn't respect it fully, like subconsciously, because I kept myself around. But again, I think it was just a matter of not wanting to go back to the car, or not wanting to go back to like being in hotels, or not wanting to be alone. But it had to happen. And so I remember like my cousin's aunt ended up visiting, and she ended up staying at my cousin's house, and we actually vibed, like we had good conversation. And she ended up confirming the rumors as well, and she was saying how like my family was basically saying that me staying at my cousin's house, that I was like brainwashing her. I was brainwashing her simply by saying my experience, simply by saying the things that I went through. And I feel like that frustrated me, and that caused a lot of anxiety, because I started feeling like, okay, damn, like now I feel like my cousin looks at me wrong. Now I feel like, she probably does think that I'm manipulating her. She probably does think that I'm like using her. She probably does think, and I feel like I started getting in my head. And so I knew that I had to do something about it. And I was like saving up as much as I could. I was saving my money. But obviously, like, now it's just me. And I didn't know how to like handle my money and like make sure I'm paying for groceries, make sure I'm paying my phone bill, make sure that, I'm paying for my school, make sure that like I had things that I was actually doing. You know what I mean? And then obviously saving. So it was taking a little bit of time, but I did it. And yeah, it was like the same person, and I believe it's the same person who messaged my partner's mom is the same person who was sitting around saying that, oh, that I was, how do I say that? That I was brainwashing her. And honestly, like that just didn't sit well with me, because I didn't want to be looked at in a certain way. And this is when I really had to learn that at the end of the day, no matter what I do, whether I stay quiet, whether I tell my truth, no matter what it is that I do, people are going to believe what they want to believe. Why? Because everybody is experiencing life through their own lenses, through their own experiences. And I can't sit here and I can't force people to see my truth. But what I can do is I can continue to build myself. And I'm not going to sit around and let these people outside of me keep me silent, keep me from speaking my truth. You know what I mean? Whether or not they think I'm right or I'm wrong, I know what I experienced at the end of the day. And so with that, I realized like, I do want to share my story. I don't want to keep being afraid. I don't want to keep feeling like, oh, people are going to look at me from a negative light, because at the end of the day, that's their choice to look at me in that way. And so that's when I decided to start creating a YouTube channel. I decided to start doing YouTube in 2021 or 2022. And I pretty much started making content about like how to build yourself up, how to create more confidence, how to let go of resistance. And I will put that old channel here on the screen so that you guys can go and look at the videos that I made. But yeah, I started just doing a lot of like how to build confidence, how to stop caring about what people think. And I started reading a lot of books during that time. And one of the books that really helped me the most was called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And that was the first book that literally opened my eyes to more spirituality. And that was the book that taught me to not take things personally, to not care about what people think, and to put myself out there. And so this is what inspired me to start creating content. Not because and it came to a point where it wasn't even about exposing people anymore, but it was about me being able to speak my truth, and not me suppressing my feelings and emotions just because that's what other people want of me, or just because that's the narrative that people want to put on me, is all these negative things. I know who I am at the end of the day, and I can't sit here and allow people outside of me to define who I am, when at the end of the day, I'm the only person, I'm the only spirit that is experiencing life in this vessel. I'm the only spirit that is seeing through the lenses of these eyes, right? And so I'm not crazy, and I'm not going to allow people to make me crazy, right? And so this is when I started doing therapy as well. I started getting, like, I did therapy, but I was getting back into therapy. I started doing therapy. I started doing shadow work. And if you guys don't know what shadow work is, it's pretty much when you start studying yourself deeply and going back to your traumas, going back into your childhood, and, trying to understand, what led you to who you are today. You know what I mean? And understanding that a lot of the times we don't really know who we are because we are only extensions of our family, right? We are only made up of what our family expected of us, the beliefs that our family put upon us, things like that. And so I really started to learn who I was before life told me who to be, by doing the shadow work, right? By indulging in things that make me happy, even if, I had to do things that were uncomfortable, and I feel like being alone was something that was very uncomfortable to me because I was always so used to, kind of craving attention from other people and trying to be the center of attention and always feeling like I had to have people around me. Like I was that kind of person. And so sitting alone in silence was something that was very challenging for me. And but I did it anyways because I knew that in order for me to get somewhere, I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I remember like watching another video where the guy said that your greatest success, right? Your success, everything that you prayed for, you manifested, is on the other side of fear. And so sometimes you have to take that risk, right? And so I just knew that I didn't want to go back home to my family because I knew that going back was just me going back to chaos, was just me going back. Like, I wasn't going to go back and like start apologizing for what I did and none of that. Like, I just wasn't going to do that. And I also wasn't going to sit here and allow them to apologize just for them to not actually mean it, right? Because actions speak louder than words. So you could sit in my face and apologize, but that doesn't mean that you're going to stop gossiping. That doesn't mean you're going to stop perceiving me this way. That doesn't mean any of that. And I understand that, right? So I didn't want to go back. And I was like, you know what? I'd rather be uncomfortable and deal with being homeless than going back, knowing that I have a room to go back to, knowing that I have a roof over my head. You know what I mean? Because that's not going to allow me to build character. All that's going to do is have me in a space where I feel drained all the time. That's just going to put me in a space where I feel like I have to conform to what my family wants of me and being the person that they want of me, rather than me being my true authentic self and me growing into the woman that I was made to become. So like, anyways, fast forward that, I ended up having to leave my cousin's house. So I ended up leaving and I was still dealing with homelessness. So I went back to like living like couch hopping and living in Airbnbs. Like I went back into that lifestyle. And honestly, I'm kind of happy that I started doing that because I feel like when I was living with my cousin, like I already knew, my family knew that I was living there because, again, the same lady that was saying that, oh, I was brainwashing my cousin, I literally saw her face to face because she ended up going over there. So I ended up seeing her. So obviously I knew that she went with her big ass mouth to go tell them that I was staying there. And also, she's also like kind of really close to my cousin's mom. So I already knew they were having conversations. So they already knew where I was. And so they had some kind of access towards me. And the crazy thing is that like my family, like they knew where I was. And yet nobody ever came to the house to try to talk to me, to try to do nothing. And I just feel like if you really cared as a parent and you really wanted a relationship with your kid and whatever, and you really wanted to fix things, you would have showed up. But my mom did not show up. Like nobody showed up. Why? Because of fear. Because they know the kind of person that I am. They know that they're lying. They know that they're in the wrong, And at the end of the day, this video isn't even about that. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's to a point now where it doesn't matter about who's right and who's wrong. It just matters for me that I'm in a better place now. So anyways, once I left my cousin's house, like, although I was scared and although I didn't know what my next steps were, I kind of also felt a sense of relief because I'm like, okay, now these people completely don't have access to me. They don't know where I'm at. They don't know what I'm doing. Because also, yeah, I was venting to my cousin, but I don't know if my cousin was telling her mom things. I don't know if my cousin was like telling other people things about me and what I'm telling them. Like, I literally don't know that. I don't know that. I would like to think that that didn't happen, but I don't know. It was just better for me to be away completely from that and from the chaos and not continuing to have anybody have access to me. And I feel like that's was something that I really needed. And, again, it was scary. Again, I was lonely, but I resorted to books. I resorted to positive things. Like, I just didn't want to sit around being miserable and depressed. So I ended up going back to like living in a hotel. And I ended up running into like another cousin of mine. And I ended up telling her about it. But her mom is the one, her mom is the one that says that was saying that like I was brainwashing people. And honestly, like I'm not even going to be sending hate to her mom because at the end of the day, she's only saying things that she's heard from other people. She doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. You know what I mean? Like, she probably doesn't even know my last name. Like, she just doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. She only knows me through other people's perceptions and little things that she's probably seen of me, but she does not know me. So I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to send my cousin's mom hate for saying that, like, oh, I'm brainwashing people with this and that, because, you know, she's entitled to having her own opinion. But I knew why I was telling my story, and I knew, like, the things that happened to me. And again, I'm not going to allow somebody outside of me that doesn't know me, that never experienced, that never lived in my household, to go ahead and make me feel like, oh, no. I'm going to, and if anything, that inspired me to want to tell my story even more. The more that I prayed to God, the more that I built my relationship with God, the more strength that I started to feel. And the more I started to realize, like, you know, me acting angry and me cussing these people out and me trying to say, oh, I found out this, I know you said this about me, bro, that's literally doing nothing for me. That was only draining me. And I will take accountability for that. Like, I did react off of anger. I did react off of impulse. I did react off of just being very defensive, you know, in the beginning. But it's understandable. Imagine your whole family going against you. Imagine your whole family, you know, from the minute that you were a child, just creating these narratives of you and putting out this persona and creating a smear campaign and telling other people and using every single thing in life against you. Like, imagine that. That's going to drive you crazy. Like, realistically, if you continue to tell a child, oh, you're bipolar, oh, you'll never be nothing in life, oh, you're crazy, it's going to be likely they're going to grow up and they're going to feel fucking crazy, you know? So thank God for, like, just me deciding to, like, have a, like, better mentality towards it and not allowing for that to define me. Like, just because I was homeless didn't mean I was worthless. It didn't mean that I was a failure. I had to learn that, like, this was just a moment of my life where God was trying to show me something different. And it was something that was uncomfortable. It was something that was scary, but it was made for me to build character. So I did, and I started working, and I started making money, and that's when I started, you know, growing my social media platforms. I started doing TikTok, and I now have such a beautiful fan base, mostly on TikTok. And I have a lot of people who I've inspired through the things that I've shared, and I think it's beautiful. And I don't look at it as like, oh, I need a fan base to validate me. Absolutely not. It's never about needing the validation, because I always tell people, like, when you watch my videos, don't just believe what I say. Don't believe what I say just because I'm talking in a video. You, like, literally, like, experience things for yourself, see things for yourself, put yourself in people's shoes, and then determine whatever it is that you want to believe. But you shouldn't just believe me just because, oh, I'm making this video and this is what I'm saying. And I think for a long time, you know, I kind of felt that way. Like, oh, I'm saying this, I need you to believe me. But no, I don't need people to believe me. Because at the end of the day, the only person that sees everything is God, is the universe. You know what I mean? And I trust that I am divinely protected. I trust that I have a team of guides who work through me every day, who listen to my prayers, who respond to my prayers. And even if I'm not in the best position in my life, even if I don't feel like I'm, you know, doing what it is that I want to be doing, I know I'm exactly where it is that I need to be. And those are the things that I really learned. And it's like, from that, I started, like, you know, literally growing. And I ended up wanting to change my job. So I ended up applying to this daycare. And I usually look up the daycares, like, when I usually look up the daycares when I want to apply to them. And I seen that my cousin worked there. One of my cousins, she's like my second cousin. She worked there. And I was like, oh shit, like, I can't believe she works there. So I ended up applying for that job. And when I went to the interview, the boss, the director, ended up being, like, one of her best friends. One of my cousin's, like, best friends. And so we ended up talking. We chatted it up. I ended up doing so great in my interview. Like, I signed up the, like, hiring paperwork and everything. And then she took me on a tour where I ended up seeing my cousin. So I waved to her. And so then me and my cousin ended up having a conversation. And in that conversation, I could just kind of tell what kind of perception she had of me. And she was basically telling me, like, oh, come back to the family, like, they're gonna forgive you and this and that. And I was telling her, like, absolutely not. Like, I'm in the best position of my life right now. I'm doing so much greater. Like, I'm literally in the process of doing so many amazing things in my life right now. Like, I just don't feel like I'm comfortable with going back, but we are gonna work together, so whatever. And she was like, oh, just text me. I know that you blocked me on social media. And first of all, I never blocked her on social media. When I was homeless, I actually deactivated all of my social medias. And I also, like, changed my number. And yeah, so whatever. And I didn't feel like explaining that to her, because it's just not, like, I just don't need to explain that to her. So then anyway, she was like, oh, you know, text me. I thought I was going to get the job because I did such a good job. I did not get the job. I guess my cousin and the boss ended up talking, but I just ended up not getting the job. And honestly, I was like kind of like hurt because I was like, what the fuck? Like I was so, like I knew I was going to get the job. Like she was literally going to give me the job until I talked to my cousin. So I don't know what was said, but that like actually was like whatever. And I was like, you know what? I don't even want to work a 9 to 5 anymore. And I started creating my own business. I became a life coach. I started doing content. I started, you know, attracting money through my live streams. Like I actually started making money in my own way because I was like, you know what? This is not rejection. This is redirection. And however it is that my cousin feels about me because of the things that she's heard and because the things that she didn't come to me and try to ask me, that's her issue. You know what I mean? Like I know what I went through at the end of the day. I was crying. I was like, why the fuck why am I crying? Like at the end of the day, bro, I know who I am. And I know the power that I have. I know what I went through. So it's not about anybody believing me. And I was like, honestly, like even when I saw my cousin in the interview, it was never about her believing me. I just was like, hey, I just want to work here. I want to like, obviously if I built something with her and we become close again, then I would like for that to happen. You know, like obviously I would like to, you know, have certain relationships because not everybody in my family, you know, hurt me. Yeah, there are enablers. There are people that are easily influenced. There are people that don't know how to like literally stand up for themselves or stand up for me. And that's okay. But I don't have hate for every single person in my family. I just removed myself because I know that it's something that I don't need. So I didn't even take it personally. I was like, honestly, I cannot take this personally. Like her perception and her beliefs about me and how she feels, like that's up to her. And it has nothing to do with me and my character. And I'm not going to allow that to negatively impact my life. So I took that rejection as redirection and I continued to build my personal brand and grow from there. And honestly, things have been going great since then. But yeah, I don't look at my story. I don't look at being homeless as like me being a victim. Like I played a role in my suffering. I put myself in that position because I made the decision to be homeless. I knew that if I would have went back to them, they would have took me in. I know if I would have went to my mom and apologized, or I would have went to my mom and tell her what she wanted to hear, she would have took me into the house. I knew it would have worked, but I didn't choose that. Because I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go back and do that. I'm not going to go back and be like, oh, I'm so sorry that I spoke my truth. No. I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to pretend that everything is okay. I'm not going to pretend that, oh, they said they're sorry and that's just is what it is. I'm not saying that people don't change. I'm not saying that people don't evolve. Maybe they have changed. But again, when that time for me to be in their life, when that time for them to hold themselves accountable, have the conversations, defend me, be real, they did not do it, right? And so that time has closed. That chapter in my life has closed. So yeah, they may have changed. They could have matured. Things could be different now, but what I experienced did not resonate with my spirit, and therefore I am not going to put myself in that situation again. I'm just not, respectfully. Not because there's hate, not because there's any of that. Like I've learned to forgive. I've learned to practice discernment. I've learned to understand a lot, but it doesn't mean that I need to go back just to make other people comfortable. That's pretty much how I came about it and how I grew from being homeless and everything that I learned. And of course I had to like obviously go through things, you know, but I'm grateful that I went through it, and I'm grateful that I am the woman that I am today because of that situation in my life. So I hope this video has inspired anybody who may be struggling in their life, going through things, you know, whether it's narcissistic abuse, whether it's people, you know, just betraying them, whether it's you're homeless yourself. I really do pray for all of you guys, and I thank you so much for watching my video, supporting my community. I love you guys so much, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye.